The third part.
Present.
Okay, first of all, we go to what part of the verb?
The second.
Second part, okay. And then second step, what do we drop off the second part? We drop off the re. So we get persuade. Okay, so we got that. And now, what do we add to that? What kind of endings? We add our personal endings, exactly. And so then, if we have the helveti doing the persuading, first of all, what number is persuade here? It's plural, and what person? Exactly, because helveti are your subject, so it's third person plural. And what is our third person plural ending for present tense?
NT.
It is nt, exactly. So persuaded, exactly. So so everyone see how we got to that? Okay, so they persuaded. Now, the word persuade, if you remember, behaves in a rather kind of a strange way. When you're persuading people to do something, the people that you're persuading, or the person that you're persuading, either way, singular or plural, what case do the people that you're persuading take? Or the person they fall into the dative case, right? It's in English it looks like a direct object. So who is being persuaded in the English sentence? In the English sentence, they're neighbors, right? So that looks like a direct object in English. So you'd think that you would have an accusative after persuading, but remember that again, persuade takes its direct object, which would normally be in the accusative, but persuade takes its direct object in the dative. Okay. So does that make sense to everyone? How persuade works? What it takes? All right. So now you don't have to say in Latin. You don't have to say their neighbors, right? You can just say neighbors because helveti are the subject, and so that's understood. It's their neighbors. So they persuade. Let's just get the word for neighbors. It's coming from, as you see down there in the vocabulary, finitimus, finitimi. Okay. So first of all, what declension is finitimus, finitimi? Second declension, and then so what part of the dictionary entry do we go to first of all to form
The second.
Okay, so go to the second dictionary entry, and then what do we drop off of that second dictionary entry?
The I.
We drop off the I, exactly, and so we have N-I-T-I-M, so we have that stem finitim, right? And so now what for neighbors? What case ending do we need again?
Dative.
Plural.
Exactly, we need a dative, exactly, and then because neighbors is plural, we do need a dative plural. And what is that dative plural ending for the second declension?
IS.
It is is, exactly. So they persuaded their neighbors. All right, so they persuaded their neighbors, and then the rauraki. What?
Question?
Yes, question.
How did you know that it was dated?
Okay, we just explained that. So persuadeos, persuadere, right? The verb to persuade. It kind of behaves in an odd way, and it behaves in a way that you wouldn't expect. Most verbs, as we know, if they have a direct object, that direct object is going to be in what case? Someone give me what case? Generally, for most verbs, right? For most verbs, yes, the direct object is going to be in the accusative case. But for certain verbs like this one, persuadeo, persuadere, the direct object actually goes into the dative case. So this is just something unique about this particular verb, right? And a few others, but this one that we're dealing with now takes its direct object in the dative. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, so everyone see how we got the dative there? Okay. All right, so they persuaded their neighbors. Well, first of all, before we move on, any other questions up to this point? Any other questions up to this point? All right. So they persuaded theirs, and who are they? They are the rauraki. So what case, first of all, would rauraki be in? It's going to be in the. I heard it back there. It's going to be in the dative as well. And why is it going to be in the dative? Exactly. So the neighbors are the rauraki, right? So the rauraki is kind of going with, in meaning, it's going with neighbors. So it's going to take the same case as neighbors. And rauraki, what declension is rauraki? It is second, right? With the I in the first form in orum, it's actually a plural. So it is. Does everyone see its second declension? Okay. So they persuaded them, and so rauraki, if it is second declension, it needs to be in the ablative. And rauraki again is what gender? Rauraki. Masculine and what number?
Plural.
It's plural, okay. So we need a dative masculine plural ending. What is that going to be? So we,
Is.
okay, so we have, again, for this case, so Rocky, again, it's plural already. So we would just have a rock in the stem, and then you would add the is ending. Does everyone see how we got that? Any questions on that? Names can kind of be interesting. All right. Everyone see up to this point how we got there. Okay, let's go to take the first bracketed clause. So we'll actually on second thought, let's back up for a sec. It would make actually more sense. So they persuaded their neighbors, the Iraqis. Let's move on to the third clause because they're going to persuade them so that they may, right? Or persuade them to do something. So let's move on to the last clause. So again, so that over to them, what kind of clause are we dealing with?
Purpose.
We're dealing with purpose clause. And again, how do we know in English? So that, and then what do we expect after the so that in English? Some kind of what?
A subjunctive.
Yeah, in English you can't have a subjunctive, but what a subjunctive what? It's a verb. We just expect a verb, right? So that plus a verb in English that indicates that we have a purpose clause. So for so that, what do we use? We use ut. In this case, I have uti there. Uti is just another form of ut. Okay, just don't worry about the I there. It's just an alternative form. It's another form you can use. Okay, make sense? All right. So that again, they persuaded them so that they, that is the Iraqi, they may, excuse me, set out with them. Now, generally in Latin.
Why don't we skip that? With their own.
Yeah. We're just skipping that just because it makes more logical sense. They persuaded them to, or that they may do something, right? With the persuade, you could have either the thing that you're persuading someone to do, you can have in the accusative. Right, the person you're persuading is in the dative again, right? But the thing you're persuading them to do can be in the accusative, or you can have purpose clause after persuade. So we're going to move on to the purpose clause. We're going to get back to the with here in a minute. We're just going to put that off for a minute, just so it makes more sense as we're going through it. Okay, does that make sense? Okay, so they persuaded them so that they may set out with them. Okay, let's actually put the verb off to the end because the verb usually is going to occur in a Latin sentence or in a clause like this. It's most often going to occur, not always, but it's most often going to occur at the end of a sentence. So let's go ahead and start out with the with them. So with them in English, if one person is actually setting out with another person, what is with them going to be? What kind of construction would it be in Latin? Accompaniment with what case?
Ablative.
Ablative of accompaniment. Does everyone see that with them would be ablative of accompaniment? I'm going to ask a real quick question. Why wouldn't it be means or manner? They're all translated with, right? Why are we dealing with accompaniment here? Why would this be accompaniment? Just kind of explain in terms of not form necessarily, but in terms of meaning. Why does this mean that we're dealing with accompaniment in the English?
Because it's talking about people.
It's talking about people, and so the people are doing what? Just kind of describe what they're doing if they're with the Rawaki. With the Hawiti or with the Rawaki. They're accompanying them, right? They're not being used as a tool, and like they're not being, something's not being done with them, right? It's like being used to do something. They're not. We don't have an abstract noun, so we're not dealing with any kind of manner construction, right? See, it's not like with joy or with sadness, right? But they're just accompanying the Hawiti are accompanying the Rawaki here. So if we have does everyone see how we got how this is an ablative of accompaniment for with them?
Yeah.
Okay, so they set out with. How would we then translate ablative of accompaniment? You would have a cum, right? Cum, and then plus an ablative. So we need an ablative form, and for them, are we dealing with singular or plural?
Plural.
A plural, and so and then also with what gender would them be in? Just going back to the Hawiti.
Masculine.
It's masculine plural, right? And so how do we say them in Latin? What do we use? What kind of pronoun do we use? I heard it. Is ea id, right? So literally with these, but is ea id can also be translated as just with the them as well, right? So with these, with them. Does that makes sense? How we get a relative, or excuse me, how do we get from is ea id? How we get that?
Okay.
Okay, so cum, and so then if we need the ablative plural masculine, what would the ablative plural masculine of that pronoun be?
Eo.
That would be singular, right?
Ea.
It's right, eis, right? So exactly, it's singular ablative plural. Does everyone see how we got that? Is there any question on that? So eis. Any question as to how we got there? All right. If there are none. So with them, they did what? So that they may set out. Okay, so what is our, again, we look down at our dictionary definition. Proficiscor. Okay, and what kind of verb is proficiscor? It's deponent, right? Because your dictionary form looks what?
Weird.
It looks weird, right? But it looks like a passive, but it's actually translated as how?
Active.
It's translated actively, even though it looks like a passive. Exactly. That's your definition of what a deponent is. And so proficiscor, proficici, profectus sum. And so, okay, let's move back real quickly to our main clause. What tense is the verb in our main clause?
Present.
It's present, exactly. And so we have a main clause and we have a subordinate clause here, subordinate purpose clause. So we are going to be dealing with sequence of tenses. You probably somewhat remember that. And so what sequence are we in? Primary or secondary? If you have a present tense verb in the main clause. We're dealing with primary. Does everyone see that? It's called primary sequence. If we have a present tense versus the main verb in the main clause, we're dealing with primary sequence. So if we're in primary sequence, we have present verb in the main clause. In our subordinate clause, our purpose clause here, what tense of the verb are we going to need? Present or imperfect? We're going to need a present, right? So present tense verb follows in a subordinate clause follows a present tense verb in the main clause. So and also in the subordinate clause, what mood does our verb need to be in? It needs to be in subjunctive because how again do we recognize a purpose clause in Latin? We first have ut, right? And then we have the subjunctive. Okay, so yes, we need a subjunctive in the Latin. And again, it's going to be present subjunctive because we are in primary sequence because we have a present tense main verb. Does everyone see how we got there? Okay, excellent. All right, so